All right, let's go ahead and get started. I will try to do the clicker. We'll see. All right, so welcome everybody to Integrations 101. Today we are here to unravel a topic that may seem a little bit technical at first, but is critical to modern marketing and event operations, and that's integrations. So whether you're just starting your integration journey or you're looking to optimize your current setup, you're in the right place. Today, we're going to talk about how integrations are the key to breaking down silos between different technologies, sparing you countless hours of manual data entry, and revealing powerful insights that actually drive revenue. All right, to quickly introduce ourselves, I am Stephanie Sweetland. I am the Senior Director of Marketing Systems at Cvent. My team oversees, governs, and integrates all 50-plus marketing technologies that we use at Cvent.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Ryan Costa. I have the longest title at Cvent, I believe. Senior Principal Solutions Consultant for Integration Solutions. Some of you might also remember me as the product manager for our integration products for a few years. So, I guess a bit of a legend in two games like Pee Wee Kirkland. I'm happy to be here with you all today.
And we are happy to have him back. My name is Rachel Cook. I'm a Principal Solutions Consultant with our team on the Event Cloud. So while I do specialize in our integrations, I also help solution our Event Cloud tools, so registration, event management, Attendee Hub event app. I also specialize on our Salesforce app. So if you've done a demo with us on that integration, I might have met you already. But yes, Ryan, we are very happy to have you back on our team. He is back from the product team to join the cool kids over in sales again. So we're happy to have you.
All right, so we have a great lineup for you today. We will talk about what integrations really are in plain terms, why they matter, and what it's costing you not to have them, what a fully integrated event looks like from end to end, and how to get started, whether you're a beginner or just need a plan. And then finally, we'll end up with how to make the case internally with some real numbers. We're going to have about 10 minutes at the end for Q&A, so please have your phone ready. So we're going to be taking questions in the event app. And then one other housekeeping note is that the slides will be available after this in the Attendee Hub, but if you want to take pictures, feel free. All right. So if you feel like you're spending more time stitching together spreadsheets than actually running your events, you are not alone. Today, we're going to show you how to break out of that cycle. Right now, there are over 15,400 marketing tools available in 2025, which is a 9% increase from last year. And no, you do not have to integrate all of them. But here's the reality. Most of these tools don't talk to each other. So who feels the pain? You do. Your team does. So we're going to show you how to break out of that cycle.
All right. So if you guys haven't realized, I'm the bit of silly in this particular comic relief of the session. So I came up with a nice little icebreaker. All right, guys? We all like pizza, I'm assuming. So poll number 1 here. Break out your phones, if you will, please. Pineapple on pizza, it's a controversial topic. Maybe we get a little bit of input. I could see some faces out there that are like, absolutely not. We can all agree, though, that I believe C is going to be the biggest weirdo of the group. Who doesn't like pizza? So if you have a minute, please launch that poll, and you'll see what everybody is saying. We'll see what those responses. Just a little icebreaker, thank you so much. And it gets us thinking about percentages and numbers, which is a great segue into 25%. What a number. I don't need to convince you that you need to integrate, right? That's exactly why you're here today. But when I was flipping through a Forrester study, this number stuck out to me, 25%. Only 25% of organizations out there, whether you're a not-for-profits, an education, a large corporation, whatever, only 25% are integrating their event technology with the rest of their tech stack, their marketing automation or their CRM. As the kids say today, that is crazy work. From your weekly webinars to your flagship conference, to the shows you attend, events are a large investment, right, cost-wise, and also one of your best ways to get first-person identifiable data. So how do we get you out of that 75% and into the 25%?
All right, so let's start from the beginning. What are integrations? So in simple terms, it's a connection between two systems, like how your event platform talks to your CRM or marketing automation. They can be one way, they can be two-way. They can push data, so we want to update our system with new event details. It can be two-way, where maybe I want to pull my contact list from my CRM or membership management tool into Cvent, so we can identify who people are before they register, update who their registration type might be, their pricing, et cetera, and then send that data back to those data systems. So integrations can come in a variety of formats, but really they're a data bridge. They help inform our systems and simplify your workflow. They also deliver actionable data directly to those who need it, quickly and accurately. So I would say imagine the alternative, but I think most people in the room have experienced the alternative, which means manually updating lists, importing, exporting spreadsheets, you know the drill. Now, there are several options when it comes to integrating data across systems. Ooh, jumped ahead. Yep, several options when it comes to integrating data across systems like a bridge. Integrations come in many formats. So we're going to talk through a few of those formats today. So we have APIs, webhooks. Ryan's going to go through a few of them. So you have options, and today's about exploring which ones are going to be a fit for you.
Yeah, and just sort of as a reminder, we're going to be walking through how to sort of get started. There's a 201 session, as mentioned earlier, where we talk about what to do with the data. So just as a side note. All right, so what kinds of integrations can I use, right? So what are the actual tools that we have in place? You know, I've been at Cvent and helping customers get integrated for, it'll be 12 years in August. I can't believe I'm saying that. And what I can tell you is that there's no like magic silver bullet. It's usually not just one thing. Your needs are gonna grow over time, and integrating with any platform, not just Cvent, is gonna be a journey, right? What you need, the day you need to sync today is not the same data that you need to sync tomorrow. But you do have various tools to get that done. And connectors, so these are going to be what you might hear Cventers call out of the box. That's like click and configure style stuff, right? This field maps to that field, and it needs to sync every 15 minutes, that type of stuff. Good, it's easy to set up. On the sort of bad side, you know, it is sort of a box of specific features. So if your needs fall outside of that, we need to look at some of these other options that we have. An iPass, anyone here familiar with iPass or using an iPass presently? No? Okay. Integration platform as a system or service, that is something like a Zapier or Tray.ai. These are no-code solutions that any of you that have a login to various platforms can say, I want to integrate Cvent with Trello or something like that, or any system really. The good of that is that you don't really need to be a developer to do these things, but again, some of the limitations might be they only connect to specific tools. We do have a connector with Zapier, so that's of help. And then custom integrations. These are APIs, essentially, right? These are developer tools. So this would be where you have the attention and the understanding of your tech teams that they need to use APIs to build a custom integration, which is going to be really bespoke and tailored for your needs. All right. So, if you're one of the 5 people out there who watched my LinkedIn video prior to the conference that are not my mother, then you know I talked about the major questions that you need to answer to prepare for an integration. They're up here. I'm not going to read them verbatim. In fact, we're actually going to deep dive into these a little bit later. But what I really want you to think about is that this is establishing your requirements. You guys do this in your jobs every single day. They might just look a little bit different for integrations. And if you haven't gotten the buy-in from your tech teams on the need to integrate, providing them tailored requirements is going to be a great way to get started.
All right, so now that you know the critical integration questions to answer, let's talk about some terminology and how to speak the language. We'll start with critical acronyms and what they mean. So the first one is APIs. This is the cornerstone of custom integrations. They enable us to share data seamlessly. And ETL, this refers to extract, transform, and load. This is great if you have a complex data manipulation that you need when you're passing data between systems. I think most of us know what a CRM is, but think Salesforce, Soho CRM, et cetera. And then MAP is marketing automation platform, like a Marketo, for example, Eloqua, Pardot, et cetera. And then 2 quick terms to know. One of them is a webhook. A lot of times these go hand in hand with APIs, but it's essential for real-time data passing between systems. And then solutions consultants, who are our folks at Cvent, who can help you figure out exactly what integration makes sense for you. And hey, that is Rachel and Ryan.
That's us.
It me.
Okay, so now that you're familiar with basic integration terms, let's talk about platform-specific terms. So you're familiar with Cvent, you have your events, guests, statuses, and question responses. You can see here these mapped to your marketing automation platform or your CRM. So when you're looking at a CRM, the language shifts, but the concepts are the same. So in Salesforce, an event is a campaign, a guest is a campaign member, status is campaign member status. And then finally, question response is a field at the campaign member level. And then with Marketo, it's basically a copy paste. You just put program instead of campaign.
All right, so like Stephanie mentioned, integrations isn't about just translating labels, right? It's about unlocking the new possibilities and saving time, effort, and delivering the best event experience. So I am the poll guy. Here's another poll, and I'm gonna also look at the responses to this pizza one. Okay, all right, we can all agree that C's a weirdo. I appreciate that. And 41% like pineapple on pizza. I love it. You are my people.
I see you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
sweet and savory. Who don't love it? All right, next poll here. So you've come here to learn how to stop having to import and export data and save time. Estimate it. You, your teammates, an intern you might pay, whoever it is, how much time do you think you are importing and exporting data between platforms? Doesn't even have to be just Cvent, just in general.
Whoever wrote these responses is my favorite person. These
All
are
right.
emotionally driven responses, and I like it.
We'll keep it moving, and we'll talk about the results later. All right, so this slide here, everybody likes a good funnel. This slide speaks for itself, right? So without an integration, you have data and processes that get stuck. And then when those things start flowing freely, that's not the end of the story, right? Because that data that flows might not be as accurate because each system is sort of talking its own language. How do we get them speaking its same language? When that happens, sales and marketing, right? They can't do their jobs effectively. They have unreliable data, so they feel like they can't act upon it. And then this is going to impact your customer or your member experience, which in turn impacts, right, the business. So integration is going to help with this. Next up, maybe some real mathematic ways that you can visualize how integrations help.
Fuzzy math, I promise. Okay, so now we know the problem of not being integrated. Let's talk about what it's costing you. So this is a great way to showcase your business case for getting funding for an integration or a consultant to help you with integration. So let's say each person on your team spends about 10 hours per event on manual tasks. That could be importing and exporting lists, cleaning data, etc. Let's say you run 15 events per year, and for each event you have 3 team members who are paying $75 an hour. That totals out to almost $34,000 a year. So most people assume that the price of not integrating is just a couple of hours here and there, but as you can see, this translates into real dollars. And if we look at the pipeline side of the equation, the impact is even greater. So let's say you have 2,000 attendees across your event program, and because you have manual data that you're processing, you might lose up to 20% of your leads, which is 400 leads that become lost before they even get into your platform. Now, if 25% of those could have become SQLs or sales qualified leads, that's 100 potential opportunities gone. So let's say these 100 would have translated into 20 sales opportunities. And with a 40% win rate and a $50,000 average sales price, that's $400,000 in missed pipeline. So obviously some fuzzy numbers here, but definitely steal this formula, take it for yourself. So this is a great way to showcase what it's actually costing you to not integrate. So ultimately, you can see here, over $433,000 a year in impact just from not integrating your systems. That's not just inefficient, that is expensive. And unlike an integration, which you only do once, that cost occurs year after year.
So what does a fully integrated event look like? Every system in your tech stack stores its own chapter of your attendee's journey. So when we think about personalizing the journey for each attendee, we think about what do we know about this individual before they come to the event. And that data lives in a system like your membership management, your CRM, your central database. Mapping CRM data like contact fields, products license, membership donor status, contract value, etc., gives you a more complete picture of who someone is and what experience they should have when they attend on site. There we go. So with an integrated event, registration gets smarter. So we have great data in our CRM. We have every touch point that sales has made, every marketing outreach, every campaign they're a part of, their buying opportunities, any fields we've collected over time. We can use this data to pre-populate the essentials like first name, last name, company. But there's more we can do with this data to create targeted details to enrich the profile. With overwhelming information like product interest, where they came from, where they're coming from, where they're going, it's Cotton Eye Joe song, we can take that information and start to curate, okay, we have this individual, they've been with us for 3 years, here's what they're interested in next. Or Ryan attended a webinar and he is interested in following up with our event app. So here's the session we want to recommend to him, a lot of which we did with you guys today. Now without integrations, here's how this works in a chaotic reality. You're manually collecting names from sales, going back and forth to ensure that you double check, validate, cross check, double validate the list before the invite email goes out. And then, as sales does, which we work on sales, we're part of that, they'll come back to you with a new list or new changes, new updates over Slack, over Teams, over email, over phone call. And all these updates have to be made. They have to be revalidated, checked before the invite email goes out again. So all of that happening manually is the time equation we did before of where we lose people, we also lose time in that process. Now, alternatively, if we integrate, what we're looking at is whether marketing generating the list or sales is helping generate the list, they're automatically being able to add those contacts to that list in real time so that your team can go in, validate the list correctly, or already have it automatically validated based on fields that we've collected, the campaign rules, any sort of automation we've set up. So that way, when you are ready to verify the list and send out the email, not only do you have it all in one place, it's all been updated, all the changes are communicated in the same way, but you also are able to automatically add that list to your email automation tool like Cvent if you're using us, or marketing automation to get that invite out to the right list without using multiple channels of communication. Now the result is no more chasing down last-minute lists from sales or manually sending out invites. Everybody's on the same page instantly, and you're not checking or double-checking your spreadsheets before sending out that RSVP. With the right contacts in the rooms, you're not just saving time, you're increasing the event's impact on your pipeline. And the best part, every team gets to stick to their own system of choice. Your sales team wants to live in Salesforce. Your membership management wants to be in the AMS. You want to be in marketing automation. Everyone wants to stay in their system. So allowing integrations to communicate those changes for you becomes kind of like project management in and of itself. Now, in terms of marketing, time managing lists, once it's real time, it's no extra work. You're not having to manually export, import these lists and lose out on that immediacy. Oh, we are the next slide. I can read. So now where we are is we're going to take it a step further. So now that we've communicated pre-event, that was really kind of getting the list together, figuring out who we're going to promote to. Now we know who we're promoting to. We have our list. We have Stephanie. She is a part of this industry. We want to know, is she a pro user? She is an expert with Cvent. Ryan, he is getting his renewal. He's about to be up for renewal this year. We want to make sure we're targeting him, seeing where he's at. Does he have any feedback? Is he ready to renew? Rachel, she attended a webinar. She's flighty. But we want to make sure if she is interested, we're capturing that. So based on the data we can collect around their engagement outside of events, that might help us drive what we choose for these individuals inside of events. Now on the back end, dynamic segmentation allows us to tailor their messaging, agenda options, and networking experiences. We're using the data that we have to treat each attendee as individual, maximizing engagement and connection. With these integrations, we can sync profile details, interest data as contact fields, and we can automatically assign segments within a Cvent event. Now, each of these customizations usually takes a few hours, several hours of planning, but with the integration, being able to assign those fields to each individual via the contact profile, we're able to assign these segments automatically and start curating their event experience without that manual lift. And then on event day, each attendee's experience is already mapped out based on their profile. Stephanie sees advanced training with sessions on her agenda. Ryan receives reminders for the VIP-only experience because he is a long-time customer and he is ready to renew. We want to make sure he does that. And then Rachel, our flighty prospect, she's invited to a networking session designed for first-timers, and she attended one of our event app sessions, so we know if she is interested, we might know where to start talking to her. Now, the agendas are unique and data-backed. It's that tailored touch that makes attendees feel valued, not just another face of the crowd, but they also feel understood. And you've also created the perfect message that they will respond to so that after the event, you know how to follow up and they feel like they know where and when they're ready to talk to you. Now that post-event action, what do we do? How do we nurture these leads from the system point of view? What do we discover? How do we action it? Cvent lets us capture event actions, notes, lead scores, survey results, and then we can strip back that data and take action. Like for Stephanie, she has a high engagement trigger, so we increased her lead score in Marketo, moving her up in our nurture program. Ryan's ready to renew status converts him directly to an SQL, so he's now past the MQL stage, and we've alerted his account manager for immediate follow-up. Rachel, our flighty Rachel, she's still an MQL and is placed in her own light nurture sequence, and we're gonna ease her into it, keeping her engaged with the brand until she is ready to buy. Now, integrations ensures that none of us fell through the cracks. Our sales team spends less time tracking and moving contacts and more time closing.
So here's what this looks like from a system architecture perspective. Cvent acts as the data bridge, automatically pushing event engagement into your marketing automation platform and CRM. So this isn't just about moving data, it's about setting off a chain reaction of automated workflows. So now we're going to show you what this looks like in real life. All right, so you may have a custom object built out today that looks a lot like this. So this is what you can build in Marketo using an out-of-the-box integration or a launch point integration. So when you're building out these custom objects in your marketing automation platform, you have a lot of flexibility. You can add different things into it, as you can see here. So out of the box, you can include things like event data, so the session name, where it is, the time it's at, as well as contact data, so any questions that you're asking the attendees, demographic information, firmographic, et cetera, as well as any dietary preferences, if you care to map that. And then engagement data. So this is really where all of your engagement data is stored, check-ins, session attendance, and appointments. So you may be wondering, why don't I just have a field for this, right? Why do I need a custom object? Well, the cool thing about custom objects is it continues to update. So if it was a field, that data would overwrite. But with a custom object, none of it gets overwritten. So you have that single point of view, single session point in time where it's updating. And here's what this looks like if you have a custom integration. So you can see there's a lot more data that you can capture here. A custom integration opens up a whole new level of flexibility. Instead of just being limited to the standard fields that I mentioned, you can include things like lead capture notes, appointment notes from your sales reps. You can capture survey responses, any critical indicators or hand raisers that you're getting from your event, as well as engagement score. And it's all in a single place. So the real value here is that you're turning every interaction and every data point into something that you can use to drive smarter follow-up, better personalization, and help your sales team be armed with better information for their next conversation. So with custom integrations, your systems are not just connected, they're working together to give every team the context that they need to move faster, make a bigger impact.
Ideally, these solutions are part of your integrations journey, these click and configure style integrations that we have built for you and that we would also maintain the development and health of. They're easy to set up. They sync most of the core data that you would want from Cvent, particularly things like registration, contact information, et cetera. And this really frees up your IT teams from having to build and manage integrations if you can use our sort of click and configure style integrations. As I mentioned earlier, these connectors help you see data in motion. So this would also help be a good starting place so you can then see what to actually do with that data when it arrives at one of these systems that you want to connect with. So there's a saying that some of my sales engineering colleagues will say, particularly any of you that have worked on an integration project with them, is that it's bad data in and bad data out, right? And we need to avoid that. So governance is going to be what helps determine who is owning what piece of the process and the project, how data will be used, and establishes the rules for the integration. And they should be mutually agreeable rules, wow, what a word, that build trust that the data being used is accurate and safe to consume. So what are some of those common data challenges? So every conversation I've had usually starts with avoiding duplicates, right? You don't want to have 3 records for Jane Smith in your CRM. Actually, imagine most CRM admins, that is part of your full-time job, is avoiding duplicates. So with Cvent, we're often focused on syncing event and attendee data, so let's think about attendees. Cvent's unique identifier is email address, right? So if you're planning an integration, oftentimes that could be the best unique identifier. I think of systems like Eloqua and HubSpot. That's also their unique identifier, so not a lot of problems connecting with those, right? We're always going to find somebody based on email, update their record. If we don't find them, we can create a new one, right? Net new lead created from your event. Some systems, though, like let's use Salesforce or Marketo as an example, email is not unique. And our tools allow for more configurable, particularly Salesforce, configurable ways to match our record to your record to ensure we do not create duplicates. Data silos, right? So this is when data only lives in one space. The information's trapped in one system, can't easily be accessed and shared with others. To break down these silos, we focus on zero copy data, right? That's establishing a single source of truth and setting clear rules of engagement for how data is shared and updated. This way, everyone's working with the same up-to-date information about any particular record. And last, we have overwritten data, right? So I hear it all the time. Salesforce is my source of truth. There should be better rules about when things get updated or not. Absolutely, I agree with you. So being able to establish which fields get updated, when they get updated. Maybe for matching a record, we want to update a field, or not update a certain field, but if we don't find a match and we need to create a new Salesforce contact, we want to do that. So having that flexibility, and a lot of our click and configure integrations I mentioned have that built in. And we talked earlier about the people who need to get involved, right? If you want to go far, you go with a group, right? And your group should include a lot of these sort of stakeholders: marketing ops, sales ops, and your IT and data and analytics stakeholders. So you need to define who owns what and what requires cross-team collaboration and what people can do on their own. This planning will help not only define responsibilities, but also determine things like system access, user roles and permissions, what should and should not be seen by different types of users. And this table will sort of help you show the different teams involved and the corresponding responsibilities and needs. All right, so we've bored you to death. Now you want to know how to get started, right? I'm a basketball fan, so there's this story I've heard Bill Walton tell, right? So he was under the tutelage of the great John Wooden, UCLA coach, and he would ask his players on the first day of practice, we're getting ready to play basketball, what do we need to do first? And he'd hear a lot of responses like, oh, we need to stretch, we need to warm up, we need to do a layup drill, etc. And he'd say, you know what? We actually need to put our uniform on first, so let's put that on. And then we need to put on our socks, and then we need to put on our shoes. All that to say there's a process to success. And even the simplest, sometimes mundane-sounding processes are nonetheless key steps to getting started. So it's all about, as I mentioned earlier, setting up your requirements. And if I can break down sort of 4 questions that you need to be able to answer before you even embark on mapping this field to that field, it's these. First, what problems do we need to solve? And how do they impact you, your team, or your organization overall? This would be, if you're familiar with the sort of the product management process, right? This would be creating your user stories, or if any of you have done jobs to be done or read the jobs to be done book, this would be exactly that. Then you need to identify your people, right? You can't do this alone, as we mentioned, so bring in your IT or your system administrators often and early to make sure that we're in compliance, as we talked about in our governance section. We have to narrow down the systems that you want to use. So when you go through those user stories, you'll be able to identify, okay, this seems to be a Salesforce problem. This seems to be a travel problem. And you can identify which systems we need to connect to. And finally, be honest about your constraints, right? I like basketball, but I'm certainly not Michael Jordan. So I'm more of a get beat by 20-year-olds at the gym kind of guy. So you got to know what your budget and your bandwidth and what your skills are, and who are the people that bring the skills that you may not have that are going to make your project a success. And it's also nice to think about things as a phased approach, right? You just don't get up and start integrating. You oftentimes need to see the data in motion, see how it's helpful, what are you not getting, what are you getting, and how that gets used. So if I could implore anything of you all, if you are able to test things in something like a Zapier, right? That's a free or freemium style software that helps you integrate data. We have a connector. It connects to thousands of tools. Maybe you just want to see what that data looks like when it arrives at a HubSpot, at a Salesforce. Try before you buy, before you start embarking on a larger integration product. When I think about walking, I think about those connectors that I've really driven home. Those are those, click and configure. You don't necessarily need to be a developer to do these things, but that gives you a little bit more data. And at some point in your integration journey, right, you're going to be running, you're going to be sprinting. And this is where you'll have buy-in and your developers involved. And you may need to use things like our REST APIs or webhooks, as Stephanie mentioned earlier. These are just other ways to get more data integrated and can be a little bit more bespoke and tailored to your needs. This is where you really start proving the ROI side of things and doing sort of large business intelligence style reporting.
I just want to add too, you can combine these together, right? So you don't have to be in just one stage. Like at Cvent, we use connectors as well as custom solutions. So we're happy to answer questions about that. Just want to let you know that even at Cvent, right, we're not fully in the run. A lot of times we're at the walk stage.
Now, getting buy-in isn't about selling the tool. It's about showing what the change is when this works. So you need to be able to tailor your internal message, and no one wants another system if it clearly doesn't improve a process. So getting buy-in is often stalled when you push a product, not a solution. So when it comes to explaining this to your internal team, to your stakeholders, to finance, to budgeting, to accounting, to sales, to marketing, everyone, the few areas we want to highlight is PAIN, which I know is a terrible acronym for something that's supposed to help you, but it is supposed to help you. P is for problem. What specific issue are we solving? Sales isn't getting leads fast enough. Marketing doesn't know who to target. Finance doesn't know how much we're spending or a budget or how much we're saving, etc. Who's the audience? Who needs the buy-in? What do they care about? Finance, they are worried about their budget, their numbers, how much is going out, how much are we approving? Your sales team, selling. That's a pretty straightforward one. Marketing, who are we reaching? How are we reaching them? How effective are events compared to our other channels? Impact, what is the cost? of staying manual. We talked about a few different equations before, did a little bit of math on that. How many leads have we missed? Time lost, time spent. Your time matters. The time you spend on these solutions, moving data back and forth, how much time you stress, burnout. Guys, burnout this year has been wild. Your time, your well-being matters, but that also can translate into a cost, an actual tangible cost. Now the next step is, what are you actually asking for today? So we talk about the walk, run, walk, crawl, walk, run. It's very Neanderthal, the evolution of humans. But when we think about next step, what is first step? It's a pilot, right? Let's try it out. Let's have a first call. Let's sit down and identify in a dream world what we like to do. We're not asking you to integrate today, or you're not going to your internal stakeholders and being like, we need to buy this yesterday. You're saying, okay, well, what if we sat down first and talked about our priorities? What if we did a pilot, a free trial first, and we showed you what this could do? Let's start there. Let's commit to that first step, and then we can see what we want to do next. All right, so key takeaways. Thank you all for sitting with us. It's been really fun to go through these. I know for the three of us, these are things we talk about every day, but it's fun to translate it in a way that hopefully is a bit more tangible and less overwhelming. And we do have a second session after this, so please definitely join us for that one if you are interested in learning a little bit more. But for today's session, first, not all integrations are created equal. There's a big difference between a basic connector, the custom iPaaS solution, and the API sync. You do not need to overcomplicate things, but you do need to know what's available and what approach can do when what your event goals require. If your data is stuck, so is your impact. I can't read today, guys, I'm so sorry. This is one of the core problems we're trying to solve. Manual work does not solve issues, it just wastes time and it costs pipeline. Third, when integrations work, everything accelerates. A fully integrated event does not just run smoother, it becomes a revenue engine. Personalized experiences, faster handoffs, real-time visibility, it's not theoretical, it's operational. Now, fourth, integrations are not just about having more tools. It is about making the ones that you already have and invested in actually work and work together faster. So whether you use Salesforce, Marketo, other marketing automation, membership management tools, the list goes on, if they are not speaking together automatically, then time is being lost and we're not using them to their max potential. Now, fifth, start small, show value, scale from there. You don't need a massive overhaul. Pick one use case, one win, start there. Sync registration data to Salesforce, trigger post-event nurture automatically. Show the win, and then grow your integration tech stack from there. All right, so we do have the Q&A open in the event app. I hope you guys took a chance, and if you have any questions, to post them there. We will be pulling them from the app. But yeah, thank you guys for joining. And again, we have our integrations booth in the IP, so if you have follow-up questions, our team is over there. It's a mix of our product team members. We'll be there. We have our custom integrations team over there as well, so any and all questions can be answered in the IP. And then we also have 201 coming up next. But thank you all for joining.
And if you didn't see it, that timing question, 33%, I count the amount of time I spend importing and exporting in days. 21% said, this is my life. Oh, my. I hit you with that George stick. Oh, my.
I feel that.
All right, questions. What do we got? I'm looking in the app here. Okay. Are there any best practices when it comes to sending emails from multiple systems and managing the opt-outs? For example, sending invites from Cvent, but other marketing emails like product insights from Salesforce. I think, Stephanie, you are, being in the marketing department, maybe the best for this.
Yeah, so great question. So you can customize what your footer is in your Cvent email. So the easiest way is just to have a page where you're managing everything and then direct folks to that. The other thing that you can do, which is a little bit less elegant, but is possible, is if you have opt-outs mapping to different fields, either in your CRM or your marketing automation platform, you can run a program where it's looking at all of those and then combining the information and literally just have like a opt-out yes, no, receive emails, yes, no. Yeah, I'd say those are the two best ways to do that.
To add to that, if you all are a Salesforce shop, we do have a feature that allows you to, whenever an opt-out status changes in Salesforce, to update Cvent. It's sort of productized, so it's sort of click and configure. That way, Cvent never accidentally invites somebody that shouldn't be, which is very important. All right. Can you touch on two-way and one-way integrations if it's not in your presentation?
Yeah, I feel like you might be better. I'll take a first whack. So when we think about two-way, we think about like API calls, right? So it's I am sending over my initial data on a specific object, like a contact record, Rachel's first name, last name, email address. When we ping Salesforce for that data, what happens when we find a match and then send it back to Cvent? Yes, we found the match for Rachel. We're going to get her attendee record and send it back to Cvent, or her contact record. So that's API calls are typically two-way. That's the format for those. When we think about one-way connections, we think about webhooks. That's like a push-pull of data. It's real-time. It's easy to configure. They're a lot more accessible. When it comes to integrations, they don't require a ton of development to know how to set them up, and they're quick. So webhooks are more of like, I just need to get this data somewhere. I need to push this data to this other system in a really simple, straightforward way. So webhooks are an example of that one-way push. Anything on that? How did I do? Did I say that okay?
Yeah. I mean, it's
You never perfect it, you know? It's an ongoing thing you try to explain.
It's really trying to figure out what data you need to place into Cvent, but yeah, all mostly possible. There's a few things that you can't create when you're trying to push data into Cvent. Yeah. I think they're called out in our API documentation, but like an example might be a voucher code.
And I want to note too, like you can choose which fields you want to map, right? So if you have a field that you're not allowed to overwrite in Salesforce, you can pull that information, but you can make it so you can't push information into that field.
I wish we had a screenshot or like a video. I would love to show. If anyone has Salesforce, we have a really cool field mapping exercise that I think you guys will like. For any data nerds in the room, we'll have some fun.
Is it possible to allow APIs to trigger an alert when the link is broken? From Jennifer. Can you elaborate? I don't know where you out there, Jennifer. What do you mean when the link is broken?
Here, I can give you mine. Take mine.
I can.
Yeah.
They might be virtual. That's why I want them to hear your question.
This is a recent issue.
Okay.
Hello. So we manage events and seminars. I work for ALSAC, and unfortunately, our API that we have through a company called New Travel, they have the API built from another company to pull data from Agencia. Well, Agencia recently had an update, and it looks completely different.
Okay.
And I didn't realize that link was broken until none of the flights were matched. I had no high confidence matches. I couldn't manually match any flights. So we are working with the vendor, but I never got a notification that it wasn't pulling over.
Okay. Not being as familiar with that particular integration, we do have notifications and alerts in system. You know, maybe there was also something from like the GDS or travel side, but I think that's probably something that we'd need to troubleshoot through your client success manager or client success associate to see which is the best alert system for that. Pardon me. All right. How do I get the process started? It would be a custom integration. All right, so as we talked about with custom integrations, a great place to start is a consultation with one of our sales engineers. We actually have two of our directors from sales engineering at the booth with us in the Innovation Pavilion. So if you want to set some time to chat with them, or if you want to ask your account manager about a custom integration. Also, another way to get this process started, we have a survey that helps document some of these questions. So some of the takeaways that we'll have is I have a sample requirements document for those of you who are not familiar with writing user stories and defining technical requirements. I can give you a template, good place to start. I also have a survey that you all can fill out to gather a lot of that requirements that you have, and that might also be a good place to start. For the custom integration, we would take the results of that survey and schedule time with your sales engineer to discuss that. Okay, let's see here. We still got time?
Yeah.
Okay. We integrate names, personal info, and purchase registration items into Salesforce. But are there other details available to transfer, such as notifications when emails are sent out from Cvent or other things we're not thinking of? I think, Rachel, you'd be a great person to answer this.
Yeah, and definitely 10201. So we're going to dive in a little bit more into how Salesforce works. So yes, we do have, within the Salesforce app integration, we have a few different ways we can trigger notifications, whether it's by task, by delivering data, and then setting up a notification in Salesforce. 'Cause the best part about Salesforce is that it can take new information and take action. So whether that's through a flow, whether that's through a notification, whether that's through a task being created, an event being created, when we deliver the data to Salesforce, we can then choose, okay, set up this alert when someone no-shows. Set up an alert if someone starts registration but then abandons it. So you can set up triggers for when new data is added, when records are updated, when statuses are changed. There's a lot of things we can do working with Salesforce's automatic triggers. So for that use case, I want to say the possibilities are endless, but definitely we should chat if you want to stop by the IP booth. I'll be there later.
Yeah, and I'll say from a marketing automation perspective, if you have custom information mapping into your automation platforms, let's say survey responses, booth visits, et cetera, anything that you think is a buying signal, you can map over and then activate off of. So I think surveys are a really interesting one because a lot of people don't think of it as a way to do lead gen. But you'll see at Cvent we do. right? So we ask, like, do you want a demo? Are you interested in learning more about any products? So you can add something like that into your survey and then map that over to activate off of.
Also, I forgot the email part. We do have invite email statuses. Not every email is going to be mainly pre-event email statuses that we can map if they're sent from Cvent to Salesforce. Again, stop by the booth. I'll chat through with you. I'll show you what we got.
Cool. All right, Sabrina asks, Cvent to Slack integration, does it exist? Doable? Thanks. That's actually, we have
Hot
several
button
slides
item.
of that in our 201 session. So if you're going to that, I don't want to divulge anything from there if you're going to go to that session too. But let's say yes. And absolutely, one thing that I will say is they are working on sort of more productized integrations. The product managers for that, their names are Ruchika Sethi and Jason Lett. They're both in an innovation pavilion. They would love to talk to anybody who has the wildest dreams about how Cvent can integrate with Slack. We have some ideas, and again, we'll talk about that in the 201 session. Is Klaviyo integration on the horizon? I believe, Kelly, this is a marketing automation tool, email tool. It may be available through Zapier, possibly. I haven't looked to see if they have that, or maybe another connector like Informatica, I know has a Cvent connector. In terms of us building one, I have not heard about that, but I also think Jason and Ruchika would be the best people to talk to about that. All right. Are there guides that include terms from other systems in order to match them with Cvent fields?
I don't think so, but we can make one.
Yeah, that's a great
whoever
idea.
has it, that's a
yeah,
great
that was an
idea.
anonymous
Wait, do
ask.
they mean like translated terms or terms from other systems that we've seen over time?
You got what I
Yeah.
got, friend. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's also anonymous, so I don't know who asked that. But if you don't want to be anonymous and want to elaborate, we're happy to answer.
I will say behind the scenes, like when our sales engineering team and when our product team goes to build out new integrations to new systems, the hardest part is that if we want to build an integration to a new system, we have to build a relationship. We have to tell them like the terms, what we want to do, and they have to let us in to
Yeah.
build those. So when we are constantly going through different tools, what do they call their fields? It's like a negotiation. We're like, we want to help. We'll drive business to you by building this integration. And then they have to give us access to view their terms and libraries. So that's kind of the behind the scenes of networking between our products teams and theirs. But the translation of tools, for something like Zapier, we've come up with a library of triggers and calls and what they mean.
Sure.
We have our API reference library, which helps understand the Cvent fields and what we call them and things like that. From other systems, it's a harder thing to document, to create a library for, but something to keep in mind.
Yeah, and a best practice, just start thinking about, is having a data dictionary. So just an Excel spreadsheet that's literally like, this is the Salesforce field, this is the corresponding Marketo field, this is the corresponding Cvent field, is so helpful.
Excellent. And I think the last question here, which ROI reporting integrations do you recommend and are already configured with Cvent? Okay. It's a loaded question. BI reporting is real tough. I'm sure you guys are probably here to try to figure that stuff out. A lot of times data and analytics people live, speak, and do things completely different than a lot of the other arms of the business. I will say something simple like Salesforce. In fact, again, another lead into the 201 session, we talk about events and event dashboards using campaigns and custom objects in that session, so please feel free to sit in. If
And
we're really
HubSpot,
talking about like
Marketo.
big data,
Sorry, HubSpot Marketo, we have some good dashboards to show. I think,
Similar,
from those.
similar, yes. HubSpot also has, especially if you're using HubSpot as CRM, has some great dashboarding opportunities that work off of the objects that we sync to. When we're talking about like big data, like business intelligence, maybe you're using a Sigma, maybe you have Snowflake, or you've heard these terms before, or these systems before. Right now, our sort of easy click and configure strategy is through your data cloud storage. And if you'd love to talk about that, come to our 201 session, because I also talk about that there. No spoiler alerts.
Awesome.
And that's right at time.
Oh, yes. So I just wanted to note, again, I know we mentioned the 201 session a lot. It is literally across the hall. So come join us. It is at 3:15. After that, there's also a community conversation about mastering MarTech. So that's going to be with a marketing technologist from WorkHuman. So she's going to be talking about some of her learnings, best practices, and then there will be opportunities to have conversations with other colleagues and folks in the community. So that'll be really neat. I'll be walking there after 201 if you want to join me. Just quickly, I'm sure you've seen this in other sessions, but we wanted to announce our newest certification course. I've taken it. It's amazing. This is the Event-Led Growth Masterclass. So definitely check it out. And as a special thank you for attending Cvent Connect, you will get a 100% off discount code, which will give you instant access. So we're really excited to share this.
Highly recommend it. It's got a great section on integrations, pitching internally. It's amazing.
And finally, if you haven't already, please download the Cvent Connect mobile app. I'm sure you have. And take the session survey. Let us know what we didn't cover so we can do better next time. And let us know what you liked. So thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, y'all. Appreciate you.